They say love makes you do crazy things. But what happens when the person you sacrificed everything for throws you away like yesterday's trash? I worked 3 jobs. 3. While she studied in air-conditioned libraries and fancy coffee shops, I was scrubbing floors at midnight, delivering packages at dawn, and serving drinks until my feet bled. All so she could become a lawyer. All so we could have a future together. And you know what she did the moment she passed the bar exam? She left me. Just like that. Called me a phase in her life. Said I was holding her back. That I wasn't good enough for her new world. But here's the thing about betrayal, it has a funny way of coming back around. 3 months after she destroyed me, I discovered something. A secret my mother had kept hidden for 23 years. A secret that changed everything. A secret that made me richer than my ex could ever dream of being. This is my story. And trust me, you're going to want to hear how this ends. Let me take you back 4 years. My name is Marcus, and I was 22 years old, working as a waiter at a small diner in downtown Chicago. The pay was terrible, the hours were brutal, but I was getting by. I had dreams, sure. Dreams of starting my own business someday, maybe opening a restaurant. But life had other plans. That's when I met her. Sarah. She walked into that diner on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, soaked from head to toe, her hair plastered to her face. She looked absolutely miserable, and somehow, that made her even more beautiful. I brought her a towel and a cup of hot coffee on the house. She smiled at me, and I swear, something inside me shifted. We talked for hours that day. She told me she was a pre-law student at Northwestern University, working toward her dream of becoming a civil rights attorney. She wanted to help people who couldn't help themselves. She was passionate, driven, and incredible. And somehow, against all odds, she was interested in me. We started dating 2 weeks later. Those first 6 months were magic. Pure magic. We'd walk along Lake Michigan, talking about our futures. She'd study while I worked, and I'd quiz her on constitutional law even though I barely understood half of it. We were different, sure. She came from an educated family, professors and doctors. I came from nothing. My dad left when I was 5, and my mom raised me alone while working as a seamstress. But Sarah always said that didn't matter. She said love wasn't about where you came from, it was about where you were going together. I believed her. God, I believed every word. Then came the moment that changed everything. One night, about 8 months into our relationship, Sarah came to my tiny apartment crying. Not just crying, sobbing. Her shoulders were shaking, and she could barely catch her breath. What happened? I asked, pulling her close. My dad, she choked out. He cut me off. Said if I'm going to date someone like you, someone with no future, he's not paying for law school anymore. Someone like me. Those words stung, but I pushed the pain aside. This wasn't about me. This was about Sarah's dream. The dream I'd heard about every single day for 8 months. The dream that made her eyes light up whenever she talked about it. How much? I asked. What? How much is law school? She looked at me like I was crazy. Marcus, it's $45,000 a year. For 3 years. Plus living expenses. It's over $150,000 total. $150,000. I had about $3,000 in savings. But I didn't care. I'll take care of it, I said. She laughed, but not in a mean way. More like she thought I was joking. Marcus, that's impossible. I'll just take out loans. It's fine. But I couldn't let her do that. I couldn't let her drown in debt for years because her father was a judgmental piece of work. So I made a promise that night. A promise that would cost me everything. I'll work, I told her. I'll work as much as I need to. We'll get through this together. And that's exactly what I did. Let me paint you a picture of what my life became. Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., I worked as a delivery driver for a courier company. Packages, documents, whatever needed moving across the city. 8 hours of driving, loading, unloading, repeat. 2:30 p.m. to 6 p.m., I'd go home, shower, maybe eat something if I had time, then head to my second job. Bartender at a sports bar. 4 hours of mixing drinks, dealing with drunk customers, cleaning up spills. Then came the real grind. 10 p.m. to 4 a.m., night shift janitor at an office building downtown. 6 hours of mopping floors, emptying trash, scrubbing toilets. The building was 43 stories tall, and I had to cover 12 of them every single night. I'd get home around 5 a.m., sleep for maybe 45 minutes, then start all over again. Weekends. I picked up shifts wherever I could. Construction work, catering events, anything that paid cash. I was making about $7,500 a month. After my rent, food, and basic expenses, I could give Sarah about $5,000. It wasn't enough to cover everything, but combined with her part-time work at the university library, we made it work. For 3 years, this was my life. I stopped seeing friends. Stopped having hobbies. Stopped living, really. Everything became about the next shift, the next paycheck, the next tuition payment. My body was always sore. My eyes were always burning. I lived on energy drinks and coffee and pure willpower. But Sarah was worth it. At least, that's what I told myself every single day. That she'd send me photos from class. She'd call me during her lunch breaks and tell me about her professors, her cases, her study groups. She was thriving, and that made every sleepless night worth it. "I'm going to make this up to you," she'd say. "Once I'm a lawyer, once I'm making real money, we're going to have everything. A house, vacations, everything you've sacrificed for. I promise." I held on to those promises like a lifeline. There were moments, though. Small moments that should have been warning signs. Like when she stopped inviting me to study group hangouts. Or when she started mentioning this guy named Derek, another law student, more and more often. Or when she'd get annoyed if I showed up to campus in my work clothes to bring her dinner. "Marcus, you can't just show up like this," she said once, her voice sharp. "People see you. They don't understand." I should have asked what she meant by that. But I was too tired. Too focused on making the next payment. Then came graduation day. May 15th. I'll never forget that date. Sarah graduated from law school with honors. Top 10% of her class. I was so proud of her I thought my chest would burst. I took the day off from all 3 jobs, something I hadn't done in 3 years, just to be there. I sat in the audience watching her walk across that stage in her cap and gown, and I cried. Actual tears. Because we did it. We did it. All those sleepless nights, all that pain, it was worth it. After the ceremony, I found her outside taking photos with her classmates. I ran up to her with flowers I'd bought, ready to celebrate. Ready to finally start our life together. That's when I saw him. Derek. Standing next to her, his arm around her waist. "Sarah?" I said, confused. She turned, and the look on her face. I'll never forget it. It wasn't happiness. It wasn't love. It was embarrassment. "Marcus," she said slowly, stepping away from Derek. "What are you doing here?" What was I doing there? At her graduation? After paying for 3 years of law school? "I came to celebrate with you," I said, holding out the flowers like an idiot. She didn't take them. "Can we talk?" she asked, glancing at Derek. "Alone?" We walked away from the crowd to a quiet spot near the parking lot. My heart was pounding. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. "Marcus," Sarah started, and she wouldn't look me in the eye. "We need to talk about us." "Okay," I said slowly. "What's going on?" She took a deep breath. I think we should go our separate ways." The world stopped. Just completely stopped. "What?" "This relationship," she continued, her voice steady now, like she'd practiced this. "It's not working anymore. We're in different places in life. Different worlds." "Different worlds?" I repeated, my voice rising. "Sarah, I've spent the last 3 years of my life working myself to death so you could be here. So you could graduate. So you could become a lawyer. And I appreciate that," she said, but her tone was cold. Clinical. "I really do. But Marcus, be honest. What do we have in common anymore? You're a janitor. A delivery driver. And I'm about to start at one of the top law firms in the city. My life is going in a direction that you can't follow. A janitor." She called me a janitor. Like that's all I was. Like the sacrifices meant nothing. "I paid for your education," I said, my voice breaking. "Everything I had, I gave to you." "I know," she said, finally looking at me. "And like I said, I appreciate it. But that doesn't mean we're right for each other. You were a phase, Marcus. A chapter. And that chapter is over. A phase. A chapter. 3 years of my life. 3 years of no sleep, no dreams, no life of my own. And I was just a phase." "Is it him?" I asked, pointing back toward Derek. "Is it that guy?" She didn't answer immediately, and that was answer enough. "Derek and I connected," she said carefully. "We understand each other. We're from similar backgrounds, similar goals. It just makes sense. It just makes sense." I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. I wanted to fall to my knees and beg her to remember who I was, who we were. But I didn't do any of that. Instead, I just stood there, numb, while the woman I'd sacrificed everything for threw me away like garbage. "I'm sorry," she said, and she actually sounded like she meant it. "I hope you understand someday. You're a good guy, Marcus. You'll find someone who's right for you." Then she walked away. Just like that. Walked back to Derek, who put his arm around her, and they left together. I stood in that parking lot for I don't know how long. The flowers fell from my hand. Cars came and went. The sun started setting. And I just stood there, broken. The next 3 months were the worst of my life. I quit 2 of my 3 jobs. Not because I wanted to, but because I physically couldn't do it anymore. My body just gave up. 3 years of barely sleeping, barely eating, barely existing finally caught up with me. I got sick. Really sick. I ended up in the emergency room with exhaustion and dehydration. The doctors told me I'd pushed myself too far for too long. I kept the bartending job because the tips were decent, but even that was hard. I'd see happy couples come in, laughing and holding hands, and I'd feel this rage building inside me. A rage I'd never felt before. I started drinking. Not at work, but at home. Alone. Trying to numb the pain, the anger, the feeling of being used and thrown away. My mom noticed. Of course she did. Mothers always know. She'd call me every few days, asking if I was okay, if I needed anything. I always said no. I was too ashamed to tell her what happened. Too embarrassed to admit that I'd wasted 3 years of my life on someone who saw me as nothing more than a stepping stone. Then one night, my phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. "Hey Marcus, it's Sarah. I heard you've been struggling. I just wanted to say I hope you're doing okay. Take care of yourself." I stared at that message for a long time. She heard I was struggling. From who? And she had the audacity to send me some generic, meaningless message like that was supposed to make things better. I typed out a dozen angry responses. Deleted them all. Finally, I just blocked her number. I was done. Done with her, done with love, done with caring. But the universe, it seemed, had other plans. 3 months and 2 weeks after Sarah destroyed me, my mom called. It was 11 p.m., which was unusual. She never called that late. "Marcus," she said, and her voice sounded strange. Shaky. "Can you come over? Tomorrow? It's important. Is everything okay?" I asked, suddenly worried. "Just, please come over. There's something I need to tell you." The next morning, I drove to my mom's small house on the south side. She answered the door looking nervous, which was weird because my mom was the toughest person I knew. She'd raised me alone, worked every day of her life, never complained. We sat at her kitchen table, the same table where I'd done my homework as a kid, and she pulled out an old shoebox. Inside were papers, documents, photos I'd never seen before. "Marcus," she began, her hands trembling slightly. "There's something I've kept from you your whole life. Something I thought I was protecting you from, but now. I think you need to know." My heart started racing. "Mom, what is it?" She pulled out a photograph. A young woman, maybe in her 20s, standing in front of a large house. She looked familiar, but I couldn't place her. "This," my mom said quietly, "was my sister. Your aunt. Rebecca." "I have an aunt." I'd never heard of her. "Had," my mom corrected, her eyes welling up. "She passed away 2 years ago. Cancer." Why didn't I know about her? "Because," my mom said, pulling out more papers, "she and I had a falling out when you were born. She was wealthy, Marcus. Very wealthy. She married a real estate developer, and they built an empire together. When her husband died 15 years ago, she inherited everything. And when she died, she left it to me." I blinked. "What?" "The house, the properties, the investments. All of it. It's been sitting in probate for 2 years while lawyers worked everything out. I didn't want to tell you until it was finalized. Until I knew for sure." "How much are we talking about?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. My mom slid a document across the table. An official letter from an estate attorney. Total estate value, $8.7 million. I read that number 3 times. Then 4. Then 5. 8. I couldn't even say it. "Million," my mom finished. "And according to Rebecca's will, half goes to me, and half goes to you. Directly to you. She specifically named you, even though you never met her. She said she wanted to make sure her nephew had opportunities she never gave him while she was alive. $4.35 million. That was my half. I was a millionaire. After 3 years of working myself to death for pennies. After sacrificing everything for someone who threw me away. After being called a janitor like it was like an insult. I was rich. The next 6 months were a blur. First thing I did. I quit bartending. Walked into that sports bar and told my manager I was done. No 2 weeks notice, no apology. Just done. Second. I called a financial advisor. A real one, not some scam artist. I needed to understand what I had and how to protect it. The advisor helped me invest properly. Set up trusts, buy real estate, create passive income. I wasn't just rich, I was set for life if I was smart about it. But I didn't go crazy. I didn't buy a mansion or a Ferrari or any of that flashy stuff. Instead, I did something that mattered. I bought a small building downtown and opened a restaurant. The restaurant I'd always dreamed about. Good food, affordable prices, and a place where working people could come and feel valued. I hired people like me. People are working multiple jobs. Single parents. Folks are trying to make ends meet. And I paid them well. Really well. Because I knew what it was like to be on the other side. The restaurant took off. Within 4 months, we were profitable. Within 8, I was opening a second location. I also did something else. Something petty, but I don't care. I cleaned myself up. Got a nice haircut, bought some decent clothes, started working out. Not because I was trying to impress anyone, but because I finally had time to take care of myself. And then, exactly 9 months after Sarah dumped me, I ran into her. It was at a networking event for Chicago businesses. My restaurant was getting some recognition, and I'd been invited to speak on a panel about entrepreneurship. I was standing by the refreshments table when I heard a familiar voice. Marcus? I turned, and there she was. Sarah. Looking exactly the same, except now she was wearing an expensive suit and carrying a designer bag. Sarah, I said evenly. Her eyes went wide. She was looking at me like she didn't recognize me. The expensive watch, the tailored suit, the confidence I'd found. Wow, she said. You look different. Really different. Thanks. I heard you opened a restaurant. 2 restaurants. That's right. That's amazing. She was smiling now, that same smile she used to give me. I always knew you'd do something great. I almost laughed. She always knew. The woman who called me a phase. Are you here with anyone? She asked, and there was something in her voice. Something hopeful. That's when I noticed Derek wasn't with her. Where's Derek? I asked. Her smile faltered. Oh, we broke up. Turns out he wasn't who I thought he was. That's unfortunate. Yeah. She stepped closer. You know, Marcus, I've been thinking about you lately. About us. I think I might have made a mistake. And there it was. The moment I'd fantasized about for months. Sarah, realizing she'd thrown away something real. Coming back, wanting another chance. A younger version of me would have jumped at it. Would have been so desperate for validation that I'd take her back just to prove I wasn't worthless. But I wasn't that person anymore. Sarah, I said calmly, I need to be honest with you. I spent 3 years of my life sacrificing everything for you. Working myself to death so you could achieve your dreams. And you threw me away the second you didn't need me anymore. I know, and I'm not finished, I interrupted. You called me a phase. A chapter. You said I was a janitor like it was something to be ashamed of. You made me feel worthless. She looked down, and I could see tears forming in her eyes. But here's the thing, I continued. You didn't break me. You freed me. Because if you hadn't left, I'd still be working 3 jobs, still sacrificing everything, still believing that love meant destroying yourself for someone else. Instead, I found out who I really am. What I'm capable of. And I'm happy. Genuinely happy. Marcus, please. I hope you find what you're looking for, I said, and I meant it. But it's not with me. It'll never be with me. That chapter. It's closed. I walked away, and this time, I was the one who left. Looking back now, I don't regret what I did for Sarah. Not the work, not the sacrifice, not the pain. Because all of it led me here. I learned that real love doesn't ask you to destroy yourself. It doesn't demand that you become less so someone else can be more. Real love builds both people up. It's a partnership, not a transaction. I also learned that your value isn't determined by someone else's inability to see it. Sarah thought I was just a janitor, just a delivery driver. But I was so much more than that. I was hardworking, loyal, dedicated, and capable. And eventually, I proved it to the one person who mattered, myself. My restaurant business is thriving now. I have 6 locations across Chicago, and I'm planning to expand. More importantly, I'm helping other people the way I wish someone had helped me. Last month, one of my employees, a single mom named Jennifer who works 2 jobs, came to me in tears. Her son needed emergency surgery, and she didn't have insurance that covered it. I paid for it. All of it. Because I could, and because I remembered what it felt like to be desperate. That's what wealth means to me now. Not fancy cars or big houses, but the ability to help people who are where I used to be. As for Sarah, I heard through mutual connections that she's doing fine. Working at a law firm, dating someone new. I hope she's happy. I genuinely do. Because my happiness isn't tied to her anymore. It's not tied to revenge or proving her wrong. It's tied to me, to my work, to the life I'm building. So if you're going through something similar, if someone has used you and thrown you away, hear this, it gets better. Not immediately, and not easily. But it gets better. Don't let someone else's betrayal define you. Keep working. Keep believing. Keep pushing forward. Because you never know what secrets the universe is hiding. What opportunities are waiting just around the corner. For me, it was an inheritance I never saw coming. For you, it might be something else entirely. But whatever it is, it's coming. Trust me. Your best days. They're not behind you. They're still ahead.